Ksenia, and thank you so much for joining me for this week's Astro Weather Report. I'm your Astro Weather Girl, and it is lovely to have you with me. A very big special welcome to my beautiful patrons. I love you so much. Mwah! Kisses to you all. I've been praying for you, especially this week, because it has been a really difficult week energetically, the week just gone. So we're all interested in diving into what this week has for us to see if we can navigate it. So big welcome to my gold, silver and bronze star patrons. Also a big welcome to anybody who's new to astrology. I hope this channel can support you in your search for understanding and clarity around astrology and deeper knowledge around astrology. And I also want to welcome back all my old precious friends who have been with me on this YouTube journey for so many years now. Thank you. It is lovely to have you with me as always. And if you don't like what I share, then please feel free to not subscribe. Please feel free to not watch. But if you don't agree with what I share, if you don't like what I share, then just walk away. There's no need to leave comments of a negative variety in the comments section. So what a week we had last week. We had the amazing full moon at Halloween, and that was intense. In fact, that energy built up throughout the week. And we also had last week the sun in a conjunction with Mercury, which gave a lot of anxiety and high tension to a lot of people, myself included. So I'm very grateful to sort of mop my brow and to go, glad that's all over. What does this week hold? Let's check it out. Well, there's three major energies playing out this week. The first one that we're going to experience on Monday the 2nd, that's Australian time. It'll be the first in other parts of the world. We are looking at a square from Saturn to Mercury that will be occurring this week. Mercury is the planet of influence more than anything this week. So on Monday the 2nd or the 1st, wherever you are in the world, we are having this influence at 26 degrees of Capricorn to 26 degrees of Libra, a square between Mercury and Saturn. I'll discuss what that will mean for us all soon. But this energy is bookmarking this week. Bookending this week. So on the Monday, we have this energy playing out. And then on Wednesday, the 4th here in Australia, it will be the 3rd in other parts of the world, we're going to have Mercury turning direct. It's been retrograde for roughly coming up to around 3 weeks, and now it's going to turn direct. And then as it starts to move direct, it will square Saturn again on Friday the 6th in Australia, or the 5th in other parts of the world. So we're going to be having the week beginning with Mercury squaring Saturn, and then the working week, ending with Mercury squaring Saturn and Mercury changing direction halfway through this week. So it's a week of Mercury influences. Let's find out what that's going to mean for us all. Well, firstly, let's start with the Saturn and Mercury square at 26 degrees. This energy, just to be forewarned and forearmed, can make us a little bit negative in our thinking. We combine the energies of thinking, speech, communication, logical, practical application with Mercury, making a difficult aspect with Saturn, the planet of criticism at its lowest level, blockage, restriction, duty, responsibility, heaviness, and at its highest level, Saturn is the energy of maturity and endurance and perseverance and stoicism. So we've got this difficult, sort of messy kind of aspect going on between these two this week. What does it mean? It means critical Saturn thinking, negative thinking. It also means misunderstandings, miscommunications, and difficulty with sort of our interactions verbally and mentally with other people. So a real time of being at cross purposes, a real time of not being fully understood by another person. For example, you might leave a comment on a YouTube video or on social media or something, meaning it with the best of intentions, with a really light heart or whatever, and somebody takes it completely the wrong way. We all know what that is like to experience those sorts of misunderstandings. So it's going to be heightened on this day. I would encourage you, if you are looking to, say, leave a review of something on, Audible or you're looking to comment on someone's social media pages, think twice. Consider, weigh your words deeply, because the potential for misunderstandings, miscommunications is just huge on this day. And people are going to see the worst. They're going to see the negative, the glass half empty, rather than the glass half full. Even if they're usually glass half full kinds of people by orientation anyway, the tendency is going to be more towards the negative perception of life and of the world and of other people on this day. So that sounds pretty heavy duty, doesn't it? But it is a difficult energy, particularly coming at the end of this year, when we've all been through so much and struggled through so much, and are still facing some hurdles to go through. So it's easier when we're worn out and exhausted mentally and emotionally to slip into those habits of negativity when this energy hits. So again, forewarned is forearmed. Now, if you are dealing with any contracts, if you're dealing with any legal agreements or arrangements, anything that you need to sign on the dotted line for, any legal matters, get some advice. Or even better, get some legal advice or professional advice, and also get a friend to give you an objective point of view, so that, or someone to discuss things with, so that you're not feeling overwhelmed, firstly, by the weightiness of any legal matters or business contracts and so forth at the moment, and so that you are not going to be too weighed down by the sort of the negative lens as you look at these business contracts and details. You probably will have what it takes to go over things with a fine tooth comb. Saturn is thorough. Saturn wants the minute details to be attended to, the I's dotted and the T's crossed. But Mercury here can bring so that's an advantage. But Mercury square to Saturn can actually bring a lot of weight. Like, if I feel heavy, I feel overwhelmed by looking at this contract. It is depressing me to look at this contract. I can't get it all into my mind right now. It's just too much, and that feeling of overwhelm. So having some support and some professional advice can really help. Now, as I've said, communications is going to be affected by this, and I've already alluded to the fact that we will have critical thinking, maybe judgmental thinking, judgmental speaking about other people, towards other people, but also to ourselves. How we're thinking about ourselves can be severely affected. So this might be a day where you're just like, oh, you're so stupid, Ksenia, why did you do this? And how come you did that? And can't you just, get it together? And, we can go down that rabbit hole on this day. And this is Monday and Friday. Both days this week, we can go down the rabbit hole of criticizing ourselves, negative thinking, thought processes turned internally that are condemning. So be very, very wary of that as well on this day. As I said a moment ago, weigh your words. Weigh your words before you speak and before you direct words to yourself as well. Weigh it up. If you catch yourself with an internal dialogue that's saying, oh, I suck and I'm hopeless and why can't I get it together? If you catch yourself with that sort of internal dialogue, step back, detach. Saturn can have a connection with detachment, actually. Detach and look at the thoughts and see them for what they are. It's just a thought. And a thought, as Louise Hay most wisely says, a thought can be changed. So detach, step back, look at the thoughts that you're thinking and realize they're just thoughts. They're not truth. They're not reality. And if you can manage to do that, then you can overcome a lot of this self-criticism that could be prevalent on this day as well. Because our thinking can be so affected, we want to be very, very wary of going down the rabbit hole of loneliness. We've all done it before. Woe is me, poor me, nobody loves me, how come nobody understands me? Every time I say something, someone judges it wrong, and we go down this rabbit hole of critical thinking, and right down at the bottom of the rabbit hole of critical thinking is, I'm so alone. Even if we're in a relationship, even if we're in friendships, we can go down this and end up at this point where we're just like, nobody understands me, I'm so alone, life is lonely, woe is me, etc. So be very, very careful of that. Be very, very careful of seeing the worst in every situation. that kind of stuff can really weigh us down now. So some strategies for dealing with this energy on both Monday and Friday. I would recommend reading something uplifting, filling your life with positive, upbeat, beautiful substance. So that could be a movie, it could be a book, it could be some uplifting music, it could be taking the opportunity to sort of lie on the grass in a beautiful garden somewhere or a park. Whatever it is, look for beauty, look for positivity, and look to consume the beautiful things of life, the things that give joy. Now, this is a strategy for raising the vibration at the best of times, but we're really going to need it under this energy. So in after this video, maybe you might like to go out and write down a list of, okay, when the going gets tough, when I find that I'm negative and weighed down, what can I do that will lift my spirits? What can I do that will cause me to focus on the positive rather than the negative? And maybe that might mean detaching, removing yourself from toxic people. It might mean putting your smartphone in a drawer for the day and not even looking at it, not even going near social media for the day. It might mean setting aside space and time to, watch your favorite film or go for a walk or something. Whatever does it for you. But prepare in advance. Have those strategies sorted out in your mind before you go into this energy, and you'll be able to push through it so much easier than, feeling all lost in the moment, like, oh, I'm overwhelmed and I can't deal with this and what should I do, and oh, I'm so lonely and so on. When we're in that moment, it's harder to grasp the ladder that's going to take us out of the rabbit hole than it is if we've prepared the ladder beforehand. Hope that analogy works for you and you get what I mean. Now, the good thing is that Mercury moves fast. It's a zippy little planet. And so this energy is not going to last for the long term. Yeah, Saturn's a slow moving planet, but Mercury's going to get out of there. Like, it's going to buzz off so fast. And if we can keep that in mind too, that is a source of encouragement and hope. Okay, this day sucks. I'm so low. Maybe I'll go curl up in bed and just have a sleep. Pisces, that's my cure for everything. I just ask my kids, oh, Mum, whenever I'm sick, your cure for everything is just to have a sleep. And it is. But maybe you just go and curl up in bed and have a sleep, or maybe, you use your strategies that we've put in place to cope, and know that this is just a blip, just a day, that soon the energy will pass and soon you'll be moving back into the flow of good communication, of lack of misunderstanding, and then saying goodbye to the negativity. So see it for what it is, just an energetic moment in time that you don't have to buy into for the long term. And if we know that's the case, then we can get through it so much easier. So that is the energy of Mercury square Saturn. Pretty heavy duty, but if we're prepared, we can get through it, and we'll get through it together. Because we'll all be feeling this. We'll all be sort of underneath this energy. And if we're all in that space, then we can support one another. Oh, you know what? That person gave me a really sharp dig. A critical comment or something like that. You know what? It's just the energy of the moment. I don't have to buy into them being affected by the energy of the moment. I'm going to let it slide off me like water off a duck's back. I'm not going to take offense. So, recognize it in other people, recognize it in yourself, know that it will pass. Now, on Wednesday the 4th in Australia, it'll be the 3rd in other parts of the world, Europe and America, the Americas, I should say, not just America, the Americas. This is, I should write it up here. This is when Mercury is going to turn direct. So I'll put a big D-Day. Direct. Mercury is direct on this day. So we're coming to the end of a season, another Mercury season of retrograde. Mercury retrogrades 3 times roughly a year. And so this is not an unusual occurrence. We are very well versed in the energy of Mercury retrograde. And when Mercury is retrograde, Mercury is at its closest point to the Earth. So we receive the energy of Mercury very, very strongly. And that's why Mercury-related things have been causing a lot of tension and stress recently. in the last the last week particularly, I mentioned in the beginning of this video how difficult the last week has been. And that's because Mercury has been retrograding through Libra. Now, Libra is quite a lovely sign, it's not super intense, it's not confronting, it's very peaceable, balanced, harmonious. But keep in mind, by whole sign aspect, we are having a whole sign aspect of Libra square to Capricorn at the moment. And that is why, since Mercury has moved into Libra retrograde, it's been tough, because Mercury is close to the Earth, plus it's got this square aspect by whole sign aspect going on with all the hoo-ha in Capricorn that we have been so well versed in and so familiar in throughout this particular year, and the reason behind the troubles that we've all been seeing playing out. Now, I've got to say that since Mercury went retrograde, my communication hasn't been the best. My anxiety's been heightened. The way I've been thinking has been very unusual for me, Usually I'm quite a glass half full. Since Mercury went retrograde, I've been really battling with maintaining the positivity. I've been short with people. I've been impatient with people, frustrated at things I don't usually get frustrated at. So I want to apologize to any of my viewers who in this energy of this moment, that I might have offended or that I might have caused some hurt to. Again, energy of the moment, and it's certainly never my intent to do that. But if I've come across in a manner that has been offensive to people through something that I've said, then I do apologize. But thank goodness Mercury is turning direct this week, and we're going to start moving forward now. What's going to happen is our communication is going to improve. Less frustration, less impatience, more of the good stuff, more of the tolerance, more of the objectivity, more logical communication that will happen now. When Mercury goes direct, there's going to be less of a need to ponder or brood things over before we reach a conclusion or an answer. Now, when Mercury is retrograde, our mental processes, even though Mercury is closer to the Earth, our mental processes are internalized. And that means we need time to think things through. Someone asks us a question, and in an ordinary time when Mercury is direct, we just answer like that off the bat. But in a retro period, sometimes we're like, can I get back to you about that in maybe a day or so when I've had a chance to sit with it, to ponder it. That's the energy of Mercury retrograde. It requires more time and patience and effort regarding thought processes. So now that Mercury's turning direct, that's going to end. We're going to be able to sort of come up with the snappy answer. Someone asks you some philosophical question and you're like, well, let me tell you what I think, blah, 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 blah. So it's going to be better in that sense for communication. No more need to brood or ponder information. No more being slow to defend ourselves either. When Mercury is retrograde and we receive some sort of criticism, it's like, well, you know what it's like when somebody makes a rude comment to you and at 3 o'clock in the morning you wake up and you go, damn it, I just wish I'd said that. That would have been the perfect comeback. You think about it 8 hours later. That is very much a Mercury retrograde kind of experience where, you don't have the good comeback until, hours afterwards. But now with Mercury going direct, we might have the witty comeback or the clever one-liner or something that will come to us so much easier. We're going to be quicker to be able to not react with nasty comments. That's not what I'm trying to say here. Just to come back with a snappy comment or a witty comment or a clever comment or something, or no more being slow to respond to circumstances. So more clarity of thought as well, and particularly clarity of thought with regard to how we feel about things. And that we'll notice that particularly when Mercury goes into Scorpio, which is a very feeling sign. So when Mercury was retrograding through Scorpio recently over the last couple of weeks, see, it's been retrograding through 2 different signs, but when Mercury was retrograding through Scorpio, it was almost like, well, I'm confused about how I feel. I don't have clarity around how I feel. Scorpio is to feel things deeply, intensely, passionately. Mercury retrograding, the mind isn't sort of registering what the heart is feeling or clear about what the heart is feeling. The mind can't process that in thought patterns that we recognize. So now that Mercury is moving direct, when it does go into Scorpio in a few days or a week's time, it's going to give us more clarity around our feelings. And that's going to begin from this Wednesday when Mercury goes direct. We're going to start to, okay, my heart is feeling this. That means I'll take this course of action, or that means I'll say this. The clarity around our feelings is going to improve, particularly when Mercury moves through Scorpio. Now, everybody knows during Mercury retrograde, you don't go signing contracts. You don't go making business deals and legal arrangements and so forth. Now, you don't go and get your computer devices fixed. You don't go and buy new electronic communication devices. You avoid all that sort of thing. Don't buy a new car or don't get your car fixed. Like, stay away from any of that sort of thing when it's Mercury retrograde. That's the usual adage. But so now that Mercury is going direct, we can go and buy that new iPad that we need, or we can go and get our car tires changed, or whatever we need to have done. All those contractual, vehicle related, legally related obligations that we have, we can actually address now. Also, Mercury is short trips as well, and so we can take a short trip. We can go for a little, country drive one afternoon or a weekend away somewhere and know that it's going to go smoothly rather than be full of hiccups and nightmares and just not worth our while. So if you want to take a short trip and you can wait till Mercury turns direct this Wednesday, and you'll really enjoy your trip so much more. So that's really what we're looking at this week with regard to the astro weather. Not a great deal to it compared to what we've been experiencing in the last few weeks, but it's still going to be very strongly felt, these energies. So let's find out how they're going to affect us all sign by sign. We'll start with Aquarius, I think. There we go. Let them go first this way. So if you are Aquarius rising or sun or moon, then you can consider this interpretation as applicable to you. In my astrological studies, the rising sign is the most important, but you can also consider sun and moon. I certainly do that when I'm assessing my chart, because it's there will be tones of each that may play out for us all. So if you're Aquarius rising, sun or moon, well, Mercury happens to rule your 8th house, Virgo, and it also rules down here, your 5th house. So it's 8th house and 5th house things that will be uplifted by Mercury turning direct. So you might have better communications with your children, because 5th house is children. Your communications with children might be clearer, more well understood, less misunderstandings between you and your children or your lovers, or maybe your fan base, because this is a house connected to popularity. So there might be a greater ease of communication in that regard. Greater ability to process information regarding your hobbies and what you're enjoying doing. You sort of be able to feel into what you like to do and how you like to spend your time and where you're getting your joy from at the moment. That will become clearer for you, 5th house energy. And the 8th house energy in this regard, when Mercury goes direct, is going to be under the influence of being able to now process information regarding perhaps mystical experiences. Maybe you've been having some really serious ability to connect with your higher self over the last Mercury retrograde, but you couldn't understand what was going on, or it wasn't quite clear to you. And now when Mercury goes direct, your understanding and clarity around mystical experiences, or tapping into the Akashic records, or doing some regression work, or whatever it happens to be that you might have been looking to do, it's going to get clearer. You're going to understand what everything meant. Let's say you had a past life regression, and or you did a little meditation or something like that, and suddenly it's going to all go cha-ching. Now I understand what message that was for me in my current incarnation, where I'm at right now. So in that sense, fantastic for understanding sort of the more mystical sides of life once Mercury goes direct, in this case ruling your 8th house. So greater clarity also around how we feel regarding mystical experiences, regarding how we feel around, say, other people's money and the ability to have shared resources in life. We're going to get some clarity there. If we have any contracts or wills to sort out or tax issues, that Mercury ruling the 8th house means that it's going to be okay to move forward with that now. Clarity around that now. Greater clarity on how we feel about lovers, about partners that we, not so much that we want to sort of commit to, but partners that we are enamored with. We're going to get a clarity of thought now. Okay, yeah, we can look at that lover objectively. I have this crush on this person and they're so hot and they're really funny and I love their intelligence. I'm just attracted to their sapiosexual energy and you'll have more clarity about what is this feeling that I've got with this person. Get some like I said, some clarity around there. So if you're Aquarius rising, Mercury turning direct can bless all those areas of life with better communication, clarity, and the ability to actually move forward in those areas. I will also point out that Mercury is turning direct in your 9th house. So if you have been, say, working on some sort of doing a webinar, or you want to study some course, or you're looking to travel or something like that, have some sort of cultural experiences, or find a new teacher or guru or something, then that can go really positively for you after Mercury turns direct as well. All right, so Pisces rising people. Well, Mercury rules for you guys your 7th house and your 4th house. So this is where things are going to sort of get a lot easier for you now that Mercury is going direct. So your communication with partners, business partners, committed partners, maybe clients as well, regular clients, it's going to get easier. Things are going to move with a greater smoothness. So, if you are in any sort of negotiations or business deals with somebody, Mercury going direct is going to make that a lot easier for you from now on, or from Wednesday on. That will be a big help if you're in business negotiations at this point in time. But also marriages and committed relationships can benefit too, because you're going to be able to sort out problems and reach agreements a lot easier now than you might have been able to do over the last 3 weeks. Also, communications with family will improve too. So that will mean, communications with the maternal line, with the local community where you live, perhaps with your immediate family, your domestic environment, the communications and the way you think about your family life is going to take a turn for the better on this day, and you'll be able to start moving forward with those sorts of things. Now, also, if you've been dealing with any contracts, we've talked about business contracts here, but any contracts regarding property or land development or buying a new house or a new lease or finding a new flatmate or something, if you're Pisces rising, things can sort of start to go your way once Mercury goes direct. So don't go, if you can put it off, don't go signing any contracts regarding those issues until after the Wednesday this week. If you want to give it an extra day or two, it would be good to wait till next week, because Friday, remember, is going to be the square between Saturn and Mercury as well. So if you can hold off for a whole other week, then you're going to be in a safe space to really go for it with any contracts and agreements and legal arrangements. It's also a really good time once Mercury goes direct for getting some clarity about how you feel about a house, how you feel about a potential flatmate, how you feel about your family, how you feel about your community, how you feel about your domestic life. You'll get some clarity now around those things, and clarity around your partnerships as well. You might have been experiencing, Pisces rising sun or moon people, like a sensation of, I'm so sick of this relationship, I think I just need to leave. I don't see any other way out. I've had enough. I'm gone. And I'd encourage you to wait until after, before you make any big moves. Wait till Mercury goes direct, because after Mercury goes direct, you might get some more clarity about how you feel. You might objectively see, how it is you're feeling and why you're feeling the way you are, and be able to deal with it. Be able to sort out a problem or rectify an issue or discuss a problem with your partner that in Mercury retrograde you mightn't have had the capacity to do. So please, if you are in that situation, do take the time and exercise patience before you make a move. Now, if you're I just need to clarify here that if you are in a situation of domestic violence, don't hesitate. There's no point waiting. If that's what you're experiencing and you have the opportunity to get out, then get out. But for people who are looking at, not clear about their relationships and how they feel about a relationship, wait till Mercury goes direct. Clarity can come. Now also for Pisces rising people, Mercury is moving direct in your 8th house. So all of what I've just explained, good communication, being clear about things, knowing how you feel, is going to also apply to the 8th house. You'll find more momentum, perhaps with other people's money, starting a crowdfunding site, or more positivity and oomph and let's go kind of with other people's resources, or money that you don't actually earn. So a will, a legacy, tax return, that sort of stuff. And a lot more forward momentum perhaps with being able to understand or communicate about your mystical experiences, or your other realms of spirituality. You might get more clarity of how you feel around those things that you've experienced and be able to communicate them a lot easier too. So for Aries rising people, Mercury happens to rule 2 houses for you. And that is the 6th house here with Virgo and the 3rd house here with Gemini. And these are the areas that are always influenced in your life by the direct and retrograde motions of Mercury, because that's the houses that Mercury rules. So very interestingly, Mercury turning direct is going to give more clarity of thought and clarity of communication with enemies. So if you found yourself in some sort of a legal dilemma, if you're going through a court case and you're Aries rising or sun or moon, and you're going through a court case, or you're dealing with an enemy or a work colleague who's backstabbing you or something like that, this is the house of open enemies. Sorry, it's just the house of enemies. This one's open enemies. So if you're struggling with that sort of thing, then you're going to get some clarity around that now when Mercury goes direct. Now I understand where they're coming from, why they're doing what they're doing. Okay, now I think I can communicate with this person and lay all the cards on the table and try and sort out this problem and resolve this issue. So in that sense, Mercury going direct can bring a lot of benefit to some problems that need fixing between you and another person. Mercury also ruling the 3rd house means that if you've been having trouble over the last 3 weeks or so with a sibling, with a relative or a flatmate, then now you can sort it out. Now you can really, as I said, lay your cards on the table, get things clear, communicate what you're feeling, because you'll know how you're feeling and you'll be able to communicate it very well to another person so that they will understand better as well. So Mercury moving direct can bring some blessing with those sorts of relationships. Thankfully. You might also get clearer about your health as well, because Mercury rules the house of health, well-being, diet, exercise, disease, that sort of stuff. So you can get some clarity around sort of, maybe you've been dealing with some health issues, or maybe you get a test result back that says, oh, you've got high cholesterol, and you're like, okay, now I understand why this has been affecting me. Now I need to sort of do some sort of action to sort of counteract that, whatever. But health issues can get some forward momentum now with Mercury going direct, and some clarity there too. Also business practices, because this is the house of a small business and your own businesses that you undertake. So using the skills of your hands to make money for yourself. This is the house of self-made money, self-made wealth, and it's also commerce, trade, advertising, marketing, and so forth. So for Aries rising people, clarity and ease of communication regarding maybe a contract that needs signing, maybe some sort of marketing agreement that needs to be come to, maybe some sort of small business project that you've been working on. You can get some clarity and some momentum now around that. You can start moving ahead with things in that regard. Knowing how you feel about a project that you've been working on. You know, maybe you've had this idea for the last 3 weeks about what you want to do, and you're umming and you're ahhing, and you've researched, and would this be a good platform to use, and who should I get to provide this component of what I'm producing, and you know, you do a big assessment. Lo and behold, Mercury goes direct, and you've got, right, and now I know what I'm doing, let's get in, let's get stuck in, let's make this happen, let's use my talents, let's use my abilities, let's use some marketing people, and let's make it move ahead. So a lot of positivity in those regards for Aries rising, sun or moon. Now, if you are Taurus rising or sun or moon, well, of course, Mercury happens to rule Virgo and Gemini, which in this case are the 5th house and the 2nd house. So both wealth houses, I might add, both money houses. So Mercury moving direct means that for Taurus rising people, you can have a lot of positivity now around your resources and around money and around fortune and luck. So yay, good news. So if you've been having some issues with money over the last 3 weeks, if you sort of like you thought you had enough money to pay the bills, but then you went to the bank account and there was just not enough there, then Mercury turning direct can mean things get back to the way they usually are. Oh yes, now my bank account's under control, you know. So Mercury turning direct and ruling the 5th house means that anything to do with communication that relates to sort of lovers, children can be very positive now. Like you might have had struggles to communicate well with these people groups over the last 3 weeks. Now with Mercury turning direct, it starts to go your way and you can communicate how you feel. You're clearer about how you feel about a lover or how you feel about your children's behavior or something. And you can say, look, this is how I feel. And because you're clear, then you can communicate with others clearer. And a lot of confusion and misconception can be cleared up. Although do be careful because on Friday that will also start playing out, that square between Saturn and Mercury, which can cloud things for a day or two. But generally speaking, Mercury going direct means more forward momentum with regard to this realm of life. Now, also clarity and forward momentum come in regards to 2nd house things. So if you've been looking to invest in, I don't know, something on the stock exchange or to back somebody's new project, or maybe they want to release a fashion label and they're looking for backers and you haven't been sure whether you will do this or not, then Mercury going direct can give you some clarity around that. Actually, I think that really would be a good project to invest in and I'm going to get behind that person. Mercury going direct can sort of make things clear regarding your investments and ways to manage money. Can make things clear for you also with how you see yourself. You know, there might have been some confusion of thought in your mind about who you are and your place in the world and your value, how you perceive yourself, and for whatever reason, maybe somebody was critical of you or maybe someone was nasty or something like that during Mercury retrograde, and we know that's been the energy of the last couple of weeks. It's been hard work, and that sort of shook your confidence or shook your sense of value in self. Well, now with Mercury turning direct, you can be like, well, their opinion doesn't matter. You know, I know who I am. I have a right to be on the earth. I have a right to think what I think. I have a right to do what I do. If they don't like it, they can bugger off. You know, we can start to see things a bit more realistically and a bit more objectively when Mercury goes direct. And so if you've been struggling with self-worth and self-value over the last 3 weeks, know that Mercury turning direct can be a very positive influence now to help you combat those sorts of thoughts. However, I will say most Taurus people that I've met, they're so solid. They're so grounded. You know, I have 2 children who are Taurus rising. Oh, honestly, they are my rock. So God bless you, beautiful Taurus people. Also, Mercury is turning direct in your 6th house. So that means things like health issues, dealing with enemies, fixing problems, and offering service to the world can now have a lot more forward momentum and positivity about them as well. If you're dealing with any of those kinds of issues, you might like get a test result back that sort of helps you give a bit more, like say, cholesterol test comes back and you realize, oh, I know I need to change my diet, and so away you go and you change your diet and your health and well-being improves. So those sorts of things can happen regarding 6th house stuff when Mercury goes direct. Alrighty, Gemini rising people. There we are. Ooh, I'll have to hold it there. I forget, I always have to hold Gemini and Sagittarius. They're a bit, very appropriately, they like to go traveling. So my wheel is just reflecting the energy of the signs. But we have Mercury which rules, in this case, for a Gemini rising person, it rules Virgo and it rules your rising sign. So these are the realms of life that are going to get more clarity and more forward momentum when Mercury goes direct. So in this case, fourth house, if you've been looking at buying a property or renting a property, signing a contract for doing that, or developing a property in some way, I would encourage you to wait till Mercury goes direct before you go signing any contracts, before you agree to anything. In fact, can I just encourage you guys to wait until after this square aspect is over. So give it another week, guys, before you sign any contracts, if you can manage that, regarding property development, or any sort of domestic situation that you're in. Once the week is up, you're going to be out of this square aspect to Saturn, and Mercury will be moving direct, and all contracts can have a lot more benefit for you and bring you a lot more long-term blessing and positivity. So patience might be a virtue at the moment if that's what you're looking at. But also, you're going to get clarity of thought and clarity of emotion now. So you'll understand your emotions and therefore be able to communicate better with your family. Family is ruled by the fourth house. So not just your children and your spouse, but maybe your parents or your grandparents, or just even your local community is seen by the fourth house. So if you're part of a tribe or a local close-knit group of people or a subculture of some sort, you can have some more clarity of communication with those people now, and you'll be able to get some clear knowledge about how you feel about circumstances. Let's say you're part of some sort of subculture and they've been, doing certain things in the community or what have you, and you get some clarity now when Mercury goes direct and go, I don't want to really be involved in that any longer. That doesn't align with me. That's not my jam. Okay, I'm going to move away from that activity now. You get some clarity of thought around issues of the fourth house. And you can communicate why you think the way you do, why you feel the way you do, more clearly with those people too. Now also, obviously, Mercury is the ruler of your first house. So you get clarity about yourself. You get clarity about what you want in life when Mercury goes direct. Suddenly it all makes sense. Now I know why, I can synchronistically see why I didn't really want to go down this path and why I'm going to go down this path instead. So clarity comes now, and we make sense of our feelings and our emotions and our actions now. This is a house of action. We make sense of things. And so we sort of have a better communication schedule with ourselves. We can communicate better with ourselves. Your internal dialogue can improve with Mercury going direct and you being a Gemini rising person. So expect greater clarity around your path in life, around what you want to achieve and where you're heading and the friendships that you've got, and what you're learning. Every area of life is going to be blessed by Mercury turning direct. You're going to get a lot more clarity. Also, I'll point out that Mercury is turning direct in your fifth house, so you can also get a lot more forward momentum now with regard to children and lovers. If you're looking for popularity and sort of recognition, celebrity, whatever, there can be a bit of forward momentum there and some growth in that area now that Mercury is turning direct there. But it's only going to be direct in Libra for a couple of days, few days, and then he's out of there. So, but you might notice a change in tone. The real areas where we notice Mercury's influence more than anything really come in the areas that he rules in the chart. So that's for Gemini rising people. Now, if we happen to be Cancer rising or Sun or Moon, then we're going to be feeling the change of direction with Mercury this Wednesday happening. Well, it's happening in our fourth house, but Mercury governs the third house and the 12th house for Cancer rising people. What this means is when Mercury turns direct, we get more clarity and capacity to communicate well in these areas of life. So, for example, for the third house, Mercury turning direct might mean you can communicate better with siblings, with relatives, with your flatmates, with your teammates. And, if there's been issues with those people groups over the last 3 weeks or so when Mercury's been retrograde, now you're going to be able to share what you feel. You'll know and understand more clearly how you're feeling about a certain issue with them, and you'll be able to communicate it better because you understand how you feel better. than you did before, and you can therefore communicate that better with those people. So more clarity, more understanding once Mercury starts to move direct. It also means that Virgo for you is the house of contracts, advertising, marketing, admin services. It's a house of connected to learning skills and abilities. It's a house connected to small business and commerce, actually. So there can be a lot of forward momentum around those things too at this time when Mercury turns direct. Suddenly, if you've been looking to sign a contract or undertake a new course of not higher learning study, but a skills course, you want to do a hairdressing degree or do makeup artistry or something like that, then Mercury turning direct is a great time to sort of action that thought process of, I'm going to sign this contract, or I'm going to do this piece of study, or I'm going to develop this webinar or whatever, or this social media platform. Mercury turning direct is a great time to actually put those thoughts into action instead of just pondering on them and brooding on them. So if you have been looking at doing anything like that, hold off until Mercury goes direct this week, and then you should be good to go. I would also recommend, though, Cancer rising people, if you've got any contracts, I'd give it an extra week. Any contracts that need signing, because of this aspect that's occurring on Monday and Friday this week, hold off. Give yourself a good extra week to get out of this zone, and you'll be fine. With any contracts, any business deals, any commerce or trading or advertising, marketing, small business kind of projects and that sort of stuff, social media work, give yourself a bit of space there to get out of that energy, and you'll do so much better. Now, Mercury is also the ruler of your 12th house. So this means clarity in the house of confusion. What does that look like? Well, this is a house of spirituality, a house of divine healing, and the house of great artistic capacity, great creativity. So it's in these realms that clarity is now going to come for you in the mental sense. You're going to understand the spiritual experiences you may have been having. Let's say you've been getting imprints from that you didn't know where they were coming from, but they're very profound, very deep, very life-changing. And suddenly Mercury goes direct and you're like, I think that's my guides speaking to me. I didn't know what that was, but now I understand. Okay, that was from my guides. That's my angels telling me that I need to do X, Y, or Z. So we get clarity around communication from divine realms, from heavenly realms, from the spiritual practices we've been doing. We get clarity around that. We get clarity around our artistic endeavors. Maybe we've been noticing on our daily walk, we've been noticing feathers everywhere, all sorts of colored feathers all over the place. And cha-ching, Mercury goes direct and we're like, oh, feathers, of course. I've had this aspiration to do a children's book, and I wanted to create some artwork for this children's book. There's some feathers. I'm going to do collage work. I'm going to collect all these feathers. I'm going to do some collage work for this children's book. Cha-ching, it all makes sense. That's why I've been seeing all these feathers, and now I can put it into practice in my artistry, because 12th house is divinely inspired artistry. Divinely inspired songwriting, divinely inspired literature, divinely inspired movies. Like the 12th house has connections to all those heavenly realms that give us that inspiration second to none. So that is likely to suddenly come clear for you. Anything to do with artistry and creativity of that comes from the divine. Plus, it's a house of healing. In fact, all the water houses are houses of healing. And so what this might mean with Mercury turning direct is suddenly get some clarity around how to heal. Maybe you've had an ingrown toenail for the past 3 weeks, and you've just been soaking it in salt water, and nothing seems to help and nothing seems to heal. And then lo and behold, Mercury goes direct and you come across something on the internet that says this is how you heal an ingrown toenail. Boom. You've got some sort of natural healing remedy, and it works a treat, and you get clarity around how to heal some issue. Now, I've just used some random example, but could be any area of life. This is a house of divinely inspired healing, basically. So getting mental clarity around a way to heal, very much the nature of this house, and what could manifest when Mercury goes direct. But also, Mercury is moving direct in Libra, which is your 4th house. So it's only going to be there for a couple of days, and really the influence of Mercury turning direct is stronger felt in the houses Mercury rules. But For you, it might just mean a greater ability to communicate with your family, a greater clarity around issues in your community or your localized environment or your tribe or your subculture or whatever, ability to communicate better with the maternal line or, your mum, and greater clarity around home and domestic issues or selling a house or developing a property, that sort of thing as well. All right, so moving along to Leo. Leo, rising or sun or moon people. Well, Mercury is down here in Libra and it's turning direct in Libra, but we want to look at the houses Mercury rules because that's where we find a lot of influence from this direct motion. And Mercury rules the second house for you and the 11th house. This is very, very interesting. So Mercury going direct and ruling the second house means you're going to get some clarity about your investments, maybe around some sort of banking issue that you're dealing with, or, you want to spend some money on the stock exchange or something. You've been pondering it, you've been thinking about it for 3 weeks, and then Mercury going direct means cha-ching, light bulb moment, that's what I need to invest in. That I get some clarity around my investments, around how to utilize my savings, my money, maybe even other things that we value as well. It might be I get some clarity around how I use my other resources like my home, or maybe I've got an orchard in the backyard. How am I using that as a resource with all its abundant fruit or something? Big pumpkin patch at the moment. Maybe you could have utilized that during Halloween, but you get some clarity about how to use the resources that you've got in life. It's not just about tangent like money, coins, credit cards and stuff. It does rule all those things, but it's also the resources that we've got. And an orchard is a resource, a veggie garden's a resource, a home is a resource, your shoe collection is a resource, and you get some clarity about how you are utilizing that and how to make the most of that and how to improve that and how to add to that. Lots of light bulb moments regarding resources that can come to you when Mercury goes direct this week. You can also get a lot of clarity about how you value yourself. So maybe in the last 3 weeks, somebody has been nasty. Someone's been a real pain in the butt to you, and it's really destroyed your self-confidence or your sense of value. Well, with Mercury going direct, suddenly it gets clear. That's just their opinion. That doesn't matter. And it's water off a duck's back. You're freed from that sort of weightiness of thought, someone doesn't like me, boo-hoo. You're freed from that now. It doesn't matter so much. And you move on, you move forward. Mercury goes direct, moves forward. And the issues of self-worth and self-valuing that might have been playing around in your head over the last couple of weeks now no longer matter, now don't mean as much. So in that sense, very, very good to see Mercury turning direct. Mercury turning direct also, as I said, it's a ruler of your 11th house. So your popularity, your ability to be recognized in the masses can suddenly take a turn, can move ahead, it might grow, might blossom. But certainly if there's been any issues with communicating with the masses or being understood by the masses or a large group of people or, being understood by even just your friends, your associates, people that you connect with who are, your friendship circle, if there's been some trouble there and some lack of communication or communications that have been misunderstood, Mercury going direct to make it all clear now. And it's like the truth comes out, or even that suddenly you know better how you really feel inside about a friend or about a group situation, and you can actually express that now in a way that is more easily understood because you're clearer within yourself about this circumstance, and therefore other people can understand better because your own energy is now more has more clarity to it. So in that sense, positive. And Mercury turning direct, ruling the 11th house, means you can get some clarity around your goals and dreams at this time too. So, there might have been sort of a scratching your head moment about, is this really what I want to do? And should I move in this direction? And now Mercury going direct says, right, these are the steps we need to take. These are the goals that we have. We solidify that this is what we want, and we start moving forward with those things now as well. Now, Mercury is turning direct in your 3rd house, Leo rising people. So what that means is just for a few days anyhow until Mercury leaves Libra, you're going to probably feel more momentum around sort of advertising, marketing, business sort of deals and commerce. There might be a bit more momentum too regarding a relationship with some siblings or a flatmate or a teammate or something. And you can get some clarity and some good communication happening there in the next week or so until Mercury moves back into Scorpio. So just a short influence that is going to be positive for you with Mercury going direct now in the third house. So if we are Virgo rising or sun or moon, well, we're going to see Mercury turning direct in your second house. But you know what? Mercury rules your first house and your 10th house. And so these are the areas where we're going to suddenly get more clarity, and we're going to be able to communicate better, and we're going to be able to understand things better in our lives, knowing how we feel and are able to process information. So that might be, for a start, Mercury ruling the sign of Gemini, your 10th house in whole sign astrology. It could mean that you get some clarity around a career project. You know, you've been working on some career endeavor and thinking about it, pondering it, brooding on it. Should I, shouldn't I? Is this a good move? Is this going to benefit my career? Mercury turning direct can give you the clarity, the light bulb moment that says, aha, okay, yes, I should, or perhaps no, I shouldn't move ahead with that particular project. So you can get a lot of clarity around a business idea, or some sort of way of elevating your status in the world. There can be some clarity come there. Maybe you've been looking for a way to raise your profile, raise your social status, or create a bit more fame or recognition out there in the world. And it hasn't been a time of action when Mercury is retrograde, but now the time for action comes. You can take positive steps towards developing a sense of recognition in the world and sort of a visibility. So Mercury turning direct means, if let's say you've been working on establishing some sort of profile on a social media platform, now's the time to launch it, now that Mercury goes direct. Also, Mercury going direct and ruling the 10th house means that you can communicate in a much easier way now with bosses. Up until now, the last 3 weeks or so, things might have been a bit confused. You mightn't have understood what your boss is on about, what they want, and they might not have understood you. Any other authority figures as well, not just bosses, but people in positions of authority like governmental leaders or policemen, or that pull you over on the side of the road and ask for a breath test or something. Any of those kind of situations where somebody's in authority over you and there's some misunderstanding or lack of clarity. Now the clarity can come and the understanding has the capacity to return. So yay, good news there. Also, Mercury ruling your first house means a lot more clarity about who you are and what you want in life. Because when Mercury is retrograde, we can sort of be a bit disconnected from our feelings, not sort of logically integrating our feelings with our thoughts. Now that Mercury is turning direct, it all comes together and the clarity returns. And so we know first house is us, and the actions we're taking in life and the momentum that we are putting into our journey. Now things become clearer. Now we're sort of more aligned and attuned to what we want, and now we might be able to manifest that new job we're looking for, or that we take action around putting in our resume for something, or take action because we're now feeling clear about what we want around sort of a relationship or some sort of health routine, any area of life, really. The first house has big connections to everything because it's our whole life journey that we see through the first house. Most important house, the first house. So you can get a lot of clarity about your life in general and how you're living it and who you're with and how it's working for you. And also how you value yourself too, what you deserve, the ideas about, well, you know what? Tired of putting up with this, tired of enduring those haters. I'm tired of having to put up with the negativity, and now I'm going to get rid of that toxicity, or now I'm going to honor myself and put myself first, perhaps be a bit selfish now, because that's the only way to find true happiness in life, is to put the self first rather than putting others first. So clarity like that can come when Mercury turns direct as the ruler of your first house. Now, obviously, Mercury is turning direct in your second house. So for about a week or so, you might notice a bit more forward momentum with tangible things such as money, bank accounts, resources, investments. You might notice a lot more forward momentum and growth with regard to other resources that you have. Maybe, I was just saying a moment ago when I was talking about Cancer people? No. some other sign, that the energy of the second house does correlate to anything that is a resource for us. So your orchard in the backyard might be a resource, and the fruit that it produces is a resource. The shoe cupboard, the shoe collection you have in the cupboard is a resource that you've got that you can utilize. And Mercury turning direct can give you a lot more momentum. So your orchard might suddenly bear a heap of fruit, or your shoe cupboard, you might sort of clean it out and realize, I can make some money by selling all these Jimmy Choo shoes on eBay. And so you develop some momentum and take some forward steps and some forward motion now with the resources in your life. But that's only going to last for a few days while Mercury continues direct in Libra. So if we are a Libra rising or sun or moon person, well, Mercury's turning direct in your sign. But for you guys, Mercury happens to rule your 12th house and your 9th house. So as the ruler of these houses, Mercury turning direct is going to mean more momentum in those realms. So for Libra rising, sun or moon people, it means more clarity of thought with spiritual things. Maybe you've been having I'll give you an illustration from my life. I'm a Libra moon, and I've been doing a lot of reading of some really esoteric books in the last 3 weeks. I've sort of got on Audible, and I've been going through a lot of esoteric material that I have not had time to in the past. And I've been sort of processing and integrating this mental information. Now, when Mercury goes direct, we cease to brood so much, we cease to ponder so much, and we start to have more action, and we start to have more clarity around the things we've been thinking about. So it's entirely probable that as a Libra moon person, when Mercury goes direct, all this information that I've been accumulating over the last 3 weeks might suddenly be put into action. Like, for example, I might be able to access the Akashic records or something like that, or I might be able to suddenly have a deeper spiritual experience in some realm through some resource, some idea, some tool of spirituality, because there's clarity that comes all of a sudden with Mercury going direct, and things aren't so internalized now. Things become clear, they become much more usable when Mercury is direct. And the tools, because Mercury is the skill sets, so any skill sets rather that we've developed in spirituality sort of realms as a Libran person, any skill sets we've developed, we can actually move forward with now, and we can start to put into use, as I said. But also the 12th house is a house of divine healing. It's also a house of divinely inspired creativity. So when Mercury goes direct, you might find that suddenly your inspiration returns. Maybe it's been dry as toast in terms of creative inspiration for you Libran people for the last 3 weeks. Now with Mercury turning direct, especially in your first house, suddenly inspiration comes, skills, talents, mental clarity returns regarding your artistic endeavors and your creative endeavors. A very strong house of creativity, which is what Mercury rules in your chart. Also, this is, as I said, the house of divine healing. So you might suddenly find you get some clarity around a health issue, and it allows you to be healed. Maybe, you've had a problem with cholesterol or something, and you've been trying to navigate how to deal with it or what have you. And lo and behold, Mercury goes direct, and the answer is there, and you find a way to manage that so much better. And there's been, it could be some medicine that you take, or it could be some sort of alternative health practice, but there's clarity that comes regarding some sort of healing. This isn't a house of disease or ill health, but it's a house of healing. So to have Mercury ruling that house and moving direct means clarity comes there. Also, Mercury rules for you guys the 9th house, which means you might have an ease of communication that comes after Mercury goes direct with a mentor, with a guru, with an inspirational figure, with a benefactor. So there might have been some misunderstandings or a lack of clarity during the last 3 weeks. Now, with the Mercury going direct, that can all change, and there can be positive communication. So very beneficial in that regard. Or maybe there's been some problems with regard to being able to travel, or being, maybe you wanted to put a webinar together and it just hasn't been gelling for you, or the information hasn't been given, coming through easily for you. And then Mercury goes direct means suddenly you can write that webinar, or you can participate in that online course, and it all starts to flow, starts to gel, and starts to work for you. So clarity regarding ninth house things is also something that you can experience. Now for you guys, as I said, Mercury is turning direct in your natal first house. And so this means just for a week or so while Mercury is moving forward in your sign, you will have a greater capacity to know what you want, to know where you're heading, to get clear about who you are, your place in the world, how things are working for you. Mercury turning direct can bring some clarity of thought, some logical thought processes, and clarity of being able to communicate with yourself as well as with others, because of his direction, going direct in the first house. Also, the ability to assert yourself. And for Librans, that's very, very important. The ability to assert yourself and to know what you want becomes clearer, and of course, that's very helpful as Librans. We need practice in asserting ourselves. We need practice in sort of making a decision, knowing what we want. And Mercury going direct in your first house can give you some support there for about a week or so. Okay, so for Scorpio rising or sun or moon people, we have Mercury turning direct up here in your 12th house. So Mercury has been retrograding through your first house and your 12th house for the last 3 weeks. Now Mercury is turning direct and giving more momentum and more forward motion to communications, to speaking, to writing, to processing information and getting clarity of thought. And it's regarding these two realms, the 11th house and the 8th house, which are the realms ruled by Mercury in your chart, Scorpio. So it's you're going to get more clarity of thought regarding friendships. You might have had some issues with friends over the last 3 weeks because of the retrograde motion here. You might have been a bit at odds with a friend, or had an argument with a friend, or just misunderstandings. You said something, they took it the wrong way, and you left scratching your head going, why? I don't know what I said wrong. Misunderstandings, lack of clarity, not even knowing how you feel about a friend or a social group or some sort of, this is, the 11th house is the house of the masses, Maybe you've been a bit confused about mass movements that have been going on around the world. Why are they doing that? I don't understand. That makes no sense to me. And why are they protesting? Or, and things can be a little unclear, but then Mercury going direct can suddenly give you the clarity. Well, now I know where I stand on that political issue. Now I know where I stand regarding that friend and why I feel the way I do. Now I know that I want to restore that friendship, or now I know I want to cut that toxic relationship free. You can get a lot more clarity about friends and groups and political activism when Mercury moves direct, and is the ruler of your 11th house, which governs all those things. The 11th house is also our goals and dreams and the gains that we can achieve from the career that we have. So there might have been some blockage or some holdups with sort of receiving from your career. There might have been some blockage or some holdups regarding, being able to sort of put action into a particular dream or goal that you had that you wanted to see fulfilled, and things might have been moving slowly there. Now that Mercury is moving direct, there's a lot more momentum, say for some gains and rewards from your career now. Some people may, depending on their natal chart, if it's being well triggered by this, some people might actually receive a raise, a pay rise, or a salary increase, because the 11th house represents our salary, and Mercury moving forward can give a rise to that, or more forward momentum with our salary. There could also be, as I said, some more forward momentum with the ability to achieve a goal or to achieve a dream, and even to create new dreams, to get some clarity around the dreams and goals that you had. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is that Mercury rules the 8th house, and the 8th house has to do with mysticism and other people's money and community resources. So there can be a lot of clarity now, maybe regarding a will. Maybe that things have been up in the air regarding a will for the last 3 weeks since Mercury went retrograde, and now it comes out, and truth comes out, and okay, we get it sorted. It's all all systems go and everything's distributed as it needs to be, or clarity regarding taxes, or clarity regarding some sort of community investment or community property that has been a bit ambiguous for the last 3 weeks. Now it's all clear, it all makes sense. We can also get some forward momentum regarding our spiritual practice. So for Scorpio people, this is Gemini rules the house of mysticism in your life. And of course, being a Scorpio rising person, you're naturally, Scorpio rising sun or moon, you're naturally bent that way anyhow, to be very interested in the deep mystical experiences of life. So Mercury, when he's been retrograde, might have had a bit of a lack of clarity around mystical experiences. For example, you might have been doing a lot of reading, a lot of studying, and it just didn't solidify, it didn't gel, or you didn't get it, or that made no sense, or I didn't align with that. Now Mercury going direct can mean that all those things that you've been studying about mysticism and esoteric work and what have you, suddenly, cha-ching, the penny drops, and you start to move forward with that work. It might be, I'll just grab something out of thin air. You might have been reading a lot about the work of dragons and the meaning of dragons in ancient China or something like that. And what's that got to do with me today? And how does that apply? And I don't understand. And then suddenly, cha-ching, the penny drops when Mercury goes direct, and you see how all that information you've been studying about dragons in ancient China and India, suddenly it makes sense and you can utilize it, and it's helpful information and you work with it. So Mercury means being able to practically apply our mental processes. And certainly once he goes direct, we can practically apply the mental work we've been doing in regard to mysticism and spirituality in the 8th house. Now, for Scorpio rising people, Mercury will be turning direct in Libra, but he's only going to be there for a few days, week or so, and then he's leaving and going into your sign once more. That being the case, Mercury going direct might for a little bit affect your spirituality, so sort of double whammy spiritual influence here, clarity around spirituality, clarity around artistic endeavors and creative endeavors, clarity around health and healing and well-being as well. It's not a house of well-being, but it's a house of divinely inspired healing, so miracles are seen from the 12th house. So you might experience for a couple of days some synchronistic experience that's a bit like a miracle of clarity manifesting in your life, and cha-ching, everything makes sense around some divine healing of the psyche, of the body, of the soul or the spirit that could occur for you. But that's only likely to last for a few days while Mercury is in the sign of Libra. Okay, Sagittarius, rising or sun or moon. And I know I'm going to have to hold the wheel because, as I said when we were talking about Gemini rising, it's so funny to me. I actually love it, because Gemini and Sagittarius is the wanderers, the travelers, the nomads, and that is the axis that will not sit still on my wheel. So go figure, it's exactly as it should be. Okay, so Mercury for Sagittarius rising or sun or moon people is turning direct in the 11th house, but in your chart, Saggy people, Mercury rules the 10th house and the 7th house. So these are the realms governed by Mercury, and so Mercury's retrograde and forward motions sort of impact those areas of your chart. So while Mercury's been retrograding and as the ruler of your 10th house, you might have noticed that the relationship you've had with bosses has been a bit fraught, or authority figures or governmental figures or people in, rulership over you in some dynamic. There might have been some misunderstandings or some lack of communication, lack of clarity with those people. Now Mercury turning direct can bring clarity, can bring insight and wisdom that has otherwise been perhaps lacking for the last 3 weeks. So that's a gift and a blessing. There can also be some clarity around, for you guys particularly, how to grow your career. So Mercury in this case, I'll just point it out, he rules the 10th house, but he's sitting in the 11th house, and both these houses are connected to our worldly achievements and our social status. That's the 10th house, and the 11th house is the rewards we receive from our worldly achievement and social status. So it's entirely likely for Sagittarius people that some kind of reward 11th house gains when Mercury is sitting can come regarding career now, some career promotion that comes with a raise in salary, a career a project that's something you've always wanted to sink your teeth into, that's been a lifelong dream for you to accomplish. So lots of forward momentum is now available to you with Mercury turning direct in your 11th house, but ruling your 10th house. So lots of positivity there. But Mercury also rules the 7th house, and this is a house also associated with business, but it's associated with business in that it's about business contracts and business partnerships and deals and business partners. So there can be some forward momentum now. Maybe you've been trying to decide, who am I going to do my advertising with? Who am I going to get to manage my social media? I want to collaborate with someone and do an interview with them, or and you're thinking about how I can work with others over the last 3 weeks. Now there can be some forward momentum with that. You can get in touch with that person. They say, yep, I'm up for an interview. Or you get in touch with the person and they say, yeah, I can market you, or I can design you a new website, or yep, I'm happy to do your advertising or whatever. And there can be a lot more forward momentum now regarding those sorts of relationships, business type relationships, but also forward momentum and clarity around your personal relationships too. So you might have been for the last 3 weeks a bit confused about, I don't know really, what I'm doing in this relationship, or what my partner expects of me. And I just feel like I can't communicate, like they don't understand, they don't listen, and lo and behold, Mercury goes direct, and suddenly you're clearer about what you want in the relationship, and you can communicate more clearly with your partner. Cha-ching, suddenly the communication dynamic in a relationship, particularly a marriage, can improve out of sight when Mercury moves direct as the ruler of your 7th house. So if you've been having a bit of, arguments or a bit of lack of understanding or what have you, hang in there. And sort of after Wednesday this week, lay your cards on the table, get it all sorted out, and you'll find that the communication will flow a lot easier, and the understanding can come with greater momentum. So that's what we're seeing with Sagittarius rising, sun or moon. Also, I will just point out that for about a few days to a week, Mercury is going to be moving direct in your 11th house. And so for that period of time, you might notice more momentum around clarity of communication with friends, or large social groups, or political activism, more ability to sort of generate, as I mentioned earlier, a reward or a gain, a salary increase or something for something you've done in career. But it's really only that window of roughly a few days to a week while Mercury moves direct in your 11th house. And finally, thank you for sticking with me to the end, Capricorn rising or sun or moon people. Well, you have had such a doozy of a year, Capricorn people. Heartfelt love to you all, and it's coming to an end now. We are wrapping things up with 2020, and we can see that finish line ahead of us. Yay! So what does it mean for you to be having Mercury turning direct in your 10th house? Well, I want to point out, to start with, Capricorn people, that Mercury actually rules your 9th house and your 6th house. So these are the areas that we will notice getting more momentum when Mercury goes direct. And for you, this means maybe something changes with your belief systems, because Mercury rules the 9th house of belief systems. Mercury is our thought processes and how we think about something. It's entirely probable that during Mercury's retrograde period for the last 3 weeks, you've been pondering and brooding on, what is my belief around XYZ issue? What do I think about this philosophical idea, or this religious idea, or this spiritual idea? And you've been thinking about it, pondering, going deep. Mercury turning direct can give the light bulb moment, the clarity, the like, fine, okay, I get it. Now I know why I've been so intrigued by this idea, and now I know what I really feel, what I really think regarding some philosophical point of view or something, some higher level essence of knowledge. So positivity regarding that. We can have a lot more forward momentum regarding perhaps the ability to travel, or maybe we've wanted to do some sort of a higher learning course, or develop a webinar or a seminar or something like that, or we've been working on a speech that we're going to give, some sort of teaching endeavor that we're going to give, because 9th house can be our role as a teacher. And we've been working on some sort of information that we're going to give out there. And now with Mercury turning direct and ruling the ninth house, we can get a lot more positive momentum behind that, a lot more clarity behind traveling, teaching some sort of information, or undertaking some sort of higher learning as well. So expect that you will get some clarity that you might have been missing in that realm. And also, of course, Mercury happens to rule your sixth house, and this is the house of enemies and court cases and problems that need fixing. So if there's been anything going on in your life for the last 3 weeks that's created a lot of lack of clarity, a lot of problems that have popped up out of nowhere, problems with communication, problems with people sort of stabbing you in the back, problems with health, problems with the ability to sort of do what you want in your daily routine, or you do your daily exercise, you've been sort of blocked from that, or there's been issues with that. I mean, this is the house of our daily life, daily routines, diet, exercise, health, well-being, enemies, how we serve the world. I mean, it rules so much stuff, the sixth house. And Mercury, your sixth house ruler, going backwards in the sky, is kind of like reversing up, making you really assess and ponder those things and go deep with those things, but it also gives a bit of a lack of clarity around those things. Now that Mercury turns direct, cha-ching, it all makes sense. Okay, I haven't been able to, get the time to exercise like I want to, or I usually do. Mercury turning direct goes, oh, I see why I had to sort of have a break from that. I just needed to sort of recoup and not push myself to the extreme. Okay, and now I feel rested. Now I can get back into my exercise. Now I can get back into my daily jogging routine, or whatever it happens to be. So you get clarity, wisdom comes, and more forward momentum comes. You can get back on track with things. Or if you've been having some difficulties with some sort of enemies or haters or whatever, you can actually move forward towards resolving those issues now, getting some clarity, communicating well with those people, laying all the cards on the table and being understood, being heard, and you being able to understand and hear the other person's point of view as well. It doesn't necessarily mean that any court cases are going to wrap up, but there will be more forward momentum towards getting them resolved now that Mercury goes direct for Capricorn people too. And of course, just to conclude, Mercury for the next few days to a week or so is going to be moving direct in your 10th house. So there will be, for a little period of time, some momentum in the 10th house, some positive momentum regarding a career or a recognition in society, success in the world, being seen, being appreciated in the world in some way. That can come with greater clarity now. You might also get the opportunity to establish or move towards establishing some sort of new career venture, or dream that you've had for some sort of achievement in the world can actually take on some positive forward momentum where it might have been stalled for the last 3 weeks. So that can also happen too. So that's our whiz around the horoscope. Always fun to do a journey around the zodiac with you, my beautiful friends. So thank you for sticking with me and going through this process. Thank you for joining me every week. I do want to close with a prayer, as I always do. Energy of love, I want to thank you for your presence, even through the difficulties we've been experiencing energetically the last few weeks. Thank you that you've got us through most of 2020 so far. We always knew it was going to be a bit of a tough ride. We ask for the energy of love to uplift us for what is left of 2020, so that we can raise our energetic, vibration on the earth as human beings to welcome in 2021 without being unduly weighed down by the energies that 2020 brought. We thank you for the enlightenment that has occurred throughout this year. We thank you for the clarity that has come this year to so many, and the realization of truth. And for that we give thanks. Be with us in this coming week. Help us to navigate Mercury energy wisely and well. And so it is. Well, thanks so much for joining me. As always, a pleasure to be here with you. And I look forward to sharing with you more astro weather next week.